Good evening, Camera Artist Guild, and welcome. This is the Thursday Image Critique, and I am your host, George DeLoache. I'm a portrait artist and photographer's coach here in sunny Southern California. And it is a hot one today, y'all. We are topping well over 100. We're looking at something like Wednesday, 110. Of course, that's the weather when you live in the desert. The communities closer to the ocean are a whole lot cooler, but I live out in the desert. Well, I am very glad you're here, and I want to welcome everybody. We are getting more and more international members of the organization, along with adding plenty from the United States. But we added 10 new members from Africa this week, several from Ghana, several from Nigeria. So Port Harcourt and Accra and Lagos, welcome. Glad to have you on board, and I hope that you gain and learn something. And you specifically asked for more information about the business of photography, and we have focused most of our attention over the last few months, over the last history of the organization, on building our skills as a photographer. But it's become readily apparent to me that we need skills in building business, because the business of photography goes hand in hand with the art. You have art, you have business, and you have finance. And you have to have the ability of a mastery of each one of those. Now, mastery, and I speak of the master's road when it comes to photography, and we talk about mastery of business. And just to touch on it just a little bit. Now, mastery can be easily understood, or best understood. Do you remember when you first started driving a car? When you first sat behind the wheel, either a driver's ed or your parents were teaching you how to drive a car, and you were sitting up there and you were holding onto the steering wheel at 10 and 2, and you were just really tight all in the shoulders and half scared, and you put the thing into gear, and Lord help you if you had to learn how to drive a stick shift. But if you were driving automatic, you put it into gear and you looked out the window and you looked back and you started driving, and you just were all nervous and everything. And boy, oh boy, when it came to parallel parking, it was such a trauma, because you had not yet learned to master the operation of a motor vehicle. Now, driving is an extremely complicated thing. We aren't born with the ability to drive. We don't have a driving talent or anything like that, but it's something that we learn, and we learn by repetitive behavior, by doing it again and again and again. Now, if you drove your car in the last couple of days or today, probably you were at home. You decided that, let's say, you're going to go to work. So you knew you had to be at work at a certain amount of time, and at a certain amount of time, you walked out of the front door, locked the front door of the house, headed to the car. From that time, it was almost automatic. You put the key in the ignition, you got inside, you turned the car, you drove out into traffic, you made right turns, left turns, you went through traffic, people passing, people turning in and out. Any one of them could have injured you, but you maneuvered through all of that. And if you were in LA, you maneuvered down the freeway, and you never even thought about it. During that period of time of driving, you were tuning the radio, or you were talking on a telephone, or you were thinking about other things that you had planned for today. And what was happening is that what you were doing, that very complicated process of driving an automobile, was almost automatic. It had become subconscious. The subconscious mind had absorbed all of that information, and so it was reacting and behaving almost on automatic pilot. And that is the way you have to get with photography. Only it's called mastery layering. You're going to have to learn multiple layers of mastery in order to make your business and your career effective. You're going to have to learn to master photography. You're going to have to learn to master business. You're going to have to learn to master marketing and branding and sales. And all of these things you have to work at and practice and study in order to make those improvements. Now, I'll tell you, I never intended for photography to be that for me. Matter of fact, nobody ever explained it to me when I first started out in photography. And I don't know about you guys, but I was just as bamboozled as anybody can be over photography, because I started at it from a different direction. I didn't decide to go into the photography business. I just found out I loved taking photographs. Now, when I was in elementary school, I think that's 7th, 8th grade, I was working on my Boy Scout merit badge, and I decided to work on it in photography. Now, you've heard me tell this story before, but I wasn't a jock. I wasn't very good at athletics. I wasn't a great musician. I wasn't one of the cool kids. I was kind of a geeky little kid. But boy, when I found photography, I found my voice. I found out what made me unique. And once I went into the dark room, because in those days there were dark rooms, and I saw my images develop, it was just outstanding. But in addition to seeing my images develop and creating images that I appreciated, I showed them to other people and they appreciated them too. And their appreciation and their approval satisfied something deep inside me. And I got hooked on it. And then one day somebody offered me, says, well, hey, George, I've got some money. Can you do this for me? Can you do what you're doing for me? And I said, yeah, sure. And I did it. And all of a sudden, a process began where I started doing business for other people or taking photographs for other people for money. But I never intended on planning a business. But then the idea dawned on me, look, I could do what I love doing and I could get paid doing it. And so that seems like a pretty good idea. It seemed like a no-brainer to me. That was a way to go. But it was seductive and it was tricky. And what happened was, is slowly as the amount of work increased, the joy began to leave. All of a sudden, I was working 12 hours a day, staying up at night, doing retouching, doing editing, presenting the work, processing, getting, and then constantly sweating, getting enough clients to try to pay for the business and pay for the equipment. And this went on, even though it finally picked up and I was making enough money. Uh, I never thought about business. And so I would make money, I would pay off my debts, and whatever was left over for me to spend. And all of those things were totally wrong, totally wrong. And it wasn't until, and I've mentioned this before and I will mention it again because I want you to look up the book. It wasn't until I ran across a book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber that I really began to understand what was involved in the photography business. Now, I won't go into the explanation of the book at all, but what we found was or what I found was there was a group of aha moments or realizations. The first aha moment and the most important realization that I ever decided, that I ever came across, that I ever internalized, and I give that to you today. And even though I've mentioned it before, I will mention it again until you're sick of hearing it. I was not a photographer looking for business. I was a businessman, and my product was photography. So the question became, how do I produce a product that somebody wants, can afford, and there's a high enough volume of people that want it and that can afford it in order to support me in my business? And so that became the dilemma, and that meant I had to go back to school and get re-educated and learn to master the area of business when it came to photography, just as I had learned to master the photographic arts from the creating of the images. Now, just to mention, I do have a workshop coming up. And the reason why I'm mentioning it is because this is the real first time I've driven out a new topic in this area of business, because it is so important. Look, I got messages from people from Africa, from South Carolina, from Louisiana, from California, and by and large, like 3/4 of the people ask about business. And that means that there's a real need for it, y'all. And I have spent my entire career in photography. I've been at it in professional photography for 50 years. And I've survived, and I have made some major mistakes, and I've had some major victories. And I want to share it with you. Now, this workshop is coming up. It's going to be for professional photographers of Los Angeles County, PPLAC. It's going to be October the 27th So if you're in the Southern California area, uh, just get in touch with PPLAC, Professional Photographers of LA County. Get yourself a ticket. Stop on by. I'd love to meet you and learn. Now, the name of the subject, I'm going to read it here, is How to Grow and Maintain a Thriving Photography Business in Today's Ever-Changing Business Climate Without Being Overwhelmed. And I've worked really hard on trying to share with you all the secrets that I've learned. I'm not holding anything back. I just intend to try to help you guys find the freedom that I have found in my photography business. And there's a couple of things to consider. Now, we already talked about the first aha moment. Uh, Now let's look at a couple others, and we'll delve into it for a little bit, and then we're going to get into the critiques because we got some great images to critique. But consider this. When you approach your photography business, I don't care whether you've been in business for years or whether you're a weekend warrior, a part-timer, or whether you are thinking about entering photography. Probably almost all of you come in from the same direction I did because you love photography. And so you figured, well, I've heard, boy, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, and you won't make any money either, and you'll always be struggling trying to get money and get enough to survive, and you'll spend your whole life laboring away at something that you used to love and never really getting the rewards unless you approach it like a business. And if you approach it like a business with business sense and business knowledge, you can make a good living. You can support yourself, and I don't care where you are in the world. It is possible to do, but it takes you thinking and developing a whole new set of awarenesses, and then mastering, that is layering, that mastery layer that I talked about, mastering these different aspects of business and photography and finance. We won't even talk about finance right now, but mastering all of those. After layering all of this mastery together, all of a sudden your business starts paying you what you deserve. But you come at it from a direction of running a business rather than selling your artwork. Now, the first thing to consider about running a business is to determine what your product is going to be. The only way you make a business is selling a product or a service. And in photography, it's kind of both. You sell the service of photography, that is, you sell something that is usually kind of nobody sees it until it's made, and then you ask them to pay for it before they make it. It depends upon what aspect of photography you're in, but it is still a product. And so we're going to look at the end result as a product. The thing we make our profit, the thing we make our money from, is your product. And that product you're going to sell to a prospective client. And you have to do your research and find out what kind of product can be sold in your geographic area, the area that you want to work in, where there are enough buyers that have enough disposable income to be able to afford what it is you offer. And there's got to be enough of them so that you can prosper or grow your business on that. Now, that means you look at it from a little different direction. You basically become a specialist when it comes to branding and marketing, and you can continue as a generalist when it comes to your artwork. Now, what do you mean by that? Let me see if I can explain it. When it comes to branding and marketing your business, you have to, like I said, first find that product that people will buy. And that's not necessarily maybe the kind of photography you like to do. Let's say you are in a very rural area. Well, there are a lot of examples. I won't go into any examples right now, but let's say you're in an area Okay, well let's switch it around. Let's say you're in a metropolitan area, and you like photographing rodeos. Well, either you're going to have to go to the rodeo, you're going to have to go out into the country in order to find it. You need to find a product that is satisfactory, that is lucrative in your neighborhood, be it maternity photography, seniors, be it product photography or wedding photography or portrait. But you have to look around and find that market. Some of those markets are saturated. Some of those markets have people, but they can't pay. Um, let's say doing model portfolios. Yeah, you can do model portfolios. There are quite a few people that want model portfolios. But by and large, the people who want modeling portfolios are beginning models with stars in their eyes that don't really have a lot of disposable income at all. So they're looking for something cheap. They're looking for an awful lot of it. And a lot of times they're just a little bit privileged, or at least they like to think they're self-privileged, because I am a model and you ought to be glad that you're just taking me. And after all, you can use the prints, so you don't need to make the money. Well, okay, there are people in that industry, but it's not a lucrative industry. Let's say, for example, you prefer infants and you have an affinity for babies and you love babies and you can get along with them well. Fabulous. There's always people getting pregnant. Start out, work with maternity. Then once you have that person working in maternity, then you can turn it into infant, and you can continue to parlay that business and upsell it in order to continue to generate revenue. So that is a deep pool. It has the markets. It has the ability to afford it if you find the right markets. But it's all a matter of finding the right markets and going at it. So you have to learn what type of photography sells in your neighborhood and your environment. And again, what photography, what the client, what you can find clients for. Where do you find clients? Once you define what your product is, now you can go about finding your clients. And we'll talk about that in another episode where I can get more into client acquisition. But it suffices to say the thing that I want to talk about today is those aha moments, understanding that you are dealing with a product and that you are looking for a market for your product, and it is market driven and not product driven. It is not you're developing a product and you run out there and you try to find somebody to buy it. You get out there and you try to find a market, and then you find out what they need. But George, I want to do other stuff. I don't want to just do that. Oh, great. You can do that. But you only market to a specific market. You only brand to a specific market. And then once you are there, then you can move laterally within that market. Once a client trusts you to do their maternity stuff, they'll trust you to do their infant or family portrait, or if it's product, you start out photographing menus and you move on into product photography as you build experience and build contacts. But you don't start out doing product work and then do maternity and then do seniors and then do portraits and try to present yourself as a generalist, because that type of marketing spreads you way too broad. The way the market is today, it takes a pinpoint attack because of the amount of effort and the amount of revenue that or cash that you have to lay out to attack a market and gain your market share. You can't do that if you spread across the general market. Now, it may be a little bit different in really rural areas where there is not a lot of competition and there's not a lot of density. There may only be a few people, and so you can be more general. The less competition, the broader you can be in a market. But if you're in a competitive area like any one of the major cities, there's thousands of photographers. You got to pinpoint what you do right down to a very narrow point and then attack it with everything you have, marketing and branding wise, in order to generate the client base that you need to generate the revenue you need. You, again, finding the people that can afford the product and who want the product, and enough of them so that you can generate enough revenue. There's one other thing I wanted to tell you, and I have kind of spaced by it, but I'll get back to it in a little bit. So let me check over here in the comments. I have been running off at the mouth quite a little bit. I haven't checked the chat to see what's going on. There's a lot of people there, and thanks, man. I appreciate it. I don't see any questions. If you have any questions, push them in there. And this is just the beginning. We're going to go over this stuff, and I am going to delve as deep as I possibly can to try to give you the information that nobody else is given in this industry. Everybody else gives you fluff. I'm not going to give you fluff. I'm going to give you raw meat, and either you can take it or you can leave it. That's okay. But I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to tell it to you straight. Okay? And at least based upon my experience. All right. Let me see. Let me check my notes. I have covered committed for mastery. I've committed. Okay. It looks like I've gotten everything done from the notes. So let me spin around here to the computer, and let's get the critique on the way. Okay. Here we go. Pardon the back of my head. And okay, there. All right, good enough. Now we're up with the first image, and the first image is Sean Holmes. Okay, Sean, you have some nice skin tone there. You're working with daylight and natural light coming from above. Now let me give you a suggestion. When you're working with natural light, you found a nice time of day. It's overcast. You're not getting direct sunlight, but you're still getting the sunlight from directly above onto the subject. Now, one way that will help, if you can find it, is look for an overhang that pulls the light from coming directly above the subject coming down this way to coming into the subject on a frontal way. If you can find a carport, overhang, a tree, something that will cover this light coming down from the top, then that makes the light directional coming in from an angle, and it makes a much more pleasing image. So you're good there. Watch your composition. Your composition, you've dropped the eyes just almost right bullseye center of the page. Move those eyes up a little bit, back out a little bit. Don't crop the hand off in the center of the knuckles. Pull back just a little bit, and I think you will add a new dimension to your work. So it's just pull back, find an overhang that will block that. Now, if you can't find an overhang and you happen to have an assistant or a reflector or something, hold that reflector above the head. Use it as a gobo to block the light, and that will help. Just something so that the light is coming in from the side like this rather than directly down from the top. And you won't get these raccoon eyes. See, you won't get that dark circle under the eyes, and you won't get that specular highlight right down the center of the nose. So again, and crop it, watch the hand on the crop, and back off a little bit, bring the eyes up to the 1/3 compositional line, and you're on your way. Okay, Sean. Thank you, brother. Okay, Keith Davis, Philly. Definitely pregnant. Yeah, we're dealing with maternity. Keith, you do so many different things, and congratulations, brother. Like I say, I've watched you grow, man, and get better and better each and every week. Interesting photograph. Again, I would mention the direction of the light coming directly in. It might be a little bit better if you brought that light out to about a 45-degree angle to your subject. That is bringing it back out over into above and into this direction coming down here. And other than that, it's a cool image. I understand what you're trying to do. If you can kind of straighten that leg out a little bit, so that it's not tucked under quite so far. Excuse me. In the same direction as the other leg, rather than kind of cross to it. And you're well on your way. Congratulations. Okay, let me see. Just want to make sure that, okay. Here we go. Diana Rutger. Diana, you have such a style that just sticks out, like you can definitely tell it's you when you take a look at your work. And I find this one very interesting. It is just kind of full of cuteness. You're using the environment that you have. You're not using any artificial light. It doesn't look like you're running off the window light for this one. And the girls and their appearance really make the image. So congratulations. This is one other Diana Rutgers, and I put both of them up because I thought both of them had a lot of character. I would have, matter of fact, I have done a shot similar to this with a father and son, or grandfather and grandson, walking away. But this is a cool shot. It kind of gives the idea of looking off into the future. Everyone there is hand in hand. It's an interesting shot. And I think that you are in good shape. Only thing I would do, if I may be wrong, but I think this is the center line. And if it's the center line, just move the bride over to the center line. You move over to the center line and keep everything in the sidewalk. Now, if you can't keep everything even in the sidewalk going down like you had, but I think you can move this lady over just a little bit, everybody over just a little bit, put the bride in the center on the center line, and just kind of pick up the symmetry. Just a suggestion, but still, this is a great image, great stuff. Like I said, if you're not getting paid and getting paid well right now, you need to work on building your business because your work is there. Okay, this is Anthony P. Robertson, and Anthony, this is stunning. It is really stunning. You're on the 1/3 compositional line. The light is great. The skin tones are great. I like the idea of using the wrap here, kind of like as part of a symmetric thing. The fade in the background is great. I just really like it. I kind of wish I had done it. So I can't claim it, but yeah, that's definitely something that I would enjoy doing, and you pulled it off extremely well. Congratulations. Okay, another great image from Willie Demetrius Richardson. Willie, you do a lot of fashion, and this is an interesting photograph. Um, Not much I could say to it except for maybe changing the crop a little bit, but we go back and forth with the cropping. But still, nice lighting, nice work, and congratulations. And the last image is Steve Perry, and this is at a historical site in Pennsylvania. I think you said it was. But this is a lady in historical garb. We're working with window light, and I would just turn that head just a little bit more so that you got some of the window light over here onto this section of the face. If you can, it means you got to move camera left a little bit and bring the head just a little bit camera left, and I think you will hit it. The challenge is that the light coming through the window is very bright and the shadow side is dark. You've kind of gone a little overexposed on the diffuse values here in the side of the face, the side of the nose, the side of the neck, even into the blouse where the light is coming through the window light. It is a little overexposed. And now you probably did that to pull up your shadows. That's where you could use a reflector. I've got a trifold reflector. If you work by yourself, if you got somebody that can hold it, or you don't mind hauling equipment that allows you to hold it, well, do that. But a trifold is something that kind of looks like a triangle, but it's got a hand grip in the center or at the point of what would be considered the triangle, and it lets me hold it. So I would kind of come in, turn her sideways a little more into the light, lower my exposure just a little bit, pop that reflector up with one hand, and then take the image. And I think those would kind of help you along. Okay, that is actually 6 images rather than 5. Where did the cursor go? There it is. Okay, we're going to come back around here to the camera and let me see. Hello from South Carolina. How you doing? Good enough. We have, again, people from all over the world, and I am so thrilled. Do me a favor. Tell all your friends about Camera Artists Guild. We are growing. We are reaching the world for photography, and we're going to cover it for two areas specifically, for the art of photography and for the business of photography. And we're going to focus on those two and bring you good information. So don't forget October the 27th for any of you guys in the Los Angeles, California area, or who want to travel to the Los Angeles, California area for my workshop. And I think that pretty much does it. Just for a gas, I hope a couple of you guys saw the videos that I put up from yesterday. Yesterday and the day before yesterday were just really fun days, and I wanted to share them with you guys. I know the videos are a little, they're maybe a little boring or they're a little choppy. They're not well done, but I was working on a movie set, and it was major production, and it was a movie about music and about musicians, and specifically into jazz, which I love both jazz and blues. And so for me, to be there was phenomenal. I was there with some of the greats. Now, these are older people, but I grew up with their music. And so it was just a thrill to meet them and be part of their lives for the last couple of days. And craft services, that's what they call the food vendors on a movie set, was fabulous. The food was great. You had all you could eat, whatever you could imagine, you had. The general craft services department, coffee, tea, drinks, all kinds of drinks, every kind of snack you can think of was there. All you do is just walk up and ask for it. And then they served a great lunch. And so, on top of getting paid top dollar and enjoying what I was doing, I got great food. And so it was fun, and I wanted to share it with you. Anyway, thank you guys. Enjoy. Have a great time. And we will talk to you a little bit later. There we go. I'm going to try to exit this fun house.